Good morning. Welcome to the More Factor. Today we're going to talk about another side of fear and how it can affect our success. I'm Frederick Groth, and I enjoy helping people overcome life problems through teaching of life skills and success principles. So today we're going to look at some more of Napoleon Hill's ideas, but we're going to look at fear a little differently today. As I said in a couple previous videos, that Napoleon Hill had about 15 success principles that he believed that were truly important you have to follow through on in order to be successful. So I know you're not going to be able to see this, but I got a piece of paper here, and it's not great quality, but it lists the 15, oh yeah, you can kind of see it. It lists the 15 principles, and there's 10 people across here, and they're rated. Each person has a rating on these principles, and then their averages tallied out. So the suggestion is that you do that on yourself. What I'll probably do one of these days is type this up so that it's usable as a form and a download, and I'll offer it on one of our sites. But I wanted to make note that he added 2 people in here that had become failures. And it's interesting to note their scores. So, Napoleon Hill lived at the turn to the beginning of the middle 1900s. And so these guys are people that either were from before that time or during that time. So he's got guys like Henry Ford, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Theodore Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, Woodrow Wilson, William Taft, Napoleon Bonaparte, Calvin Coolidge, and Jesse James. These are people that were in the history books, were current, that information about these people was fairly easy to get at that time. Okay, so quickly, I'm going to run down the 15 laws of success that Napoleon Hill discovered and laid out as must-haves. Definite chief aim, self-confidence, habit of saving, initiative and leadership, imagination, enthusiasm, self-control, habit of doing more than what you're paid for, having a pleasing personality, accurate thinking, concentration, cooperation, profiting by failure, tolerance, practicing the golden rule. Now, I don't have time to go through all this, but I want to make note that Napoleon Hill knew Henry Ford personally, and the only score on the whole list that was below 50 or lower, well, it was 50 for any of these of Henry Ford's things, was pleasing personality. I guess he didn't have quite the greatest personality. He got a 50. And everything else was 75% or higher. So he got a total average of 91. And at the time, Henry Ford was one of the richest men, most powerful men in the world. And as we can tell, today, the Ford Motor Company is still quite strong based on the leadership style of Henry Ford. Now, the lowest on the list is Jesse James. And if you don't know who Jesse James is, he is one of the most infamous outlaws in Western history. And I want you to note here, and we're going to talk about fear now. Yesterday I talked about fear that affects us. fears that can get a hold of us and cause us to have a little bit of trouble getting our success in life. Today I want to talk about the fear that we project on others in order to manipulate and control them. Okay? And any way you use fear, it's going to be a detriment to your success. Okay? So, Jesse James, he's got the lowest score of 37. And these are scored at 1 to 100, so 100 scale. You can do it a 1 to 10, so he would have got a 3.7. Okay? Anytime you have a 0 in your list on at least one principle, it usually leads to failure. And Jesse James had his chief aim, it was a 0. Habit of saving was 0. Habit of doing more than what you're paid for, 0. He was a thief. Profiting by failure, 0. And that's a whole nother topic that we don't really have time to talk about at all this morning. Tolerance, his was 0. Practicing the golden rule, 0. He got really low score because in his line of work, it didn't allow him to serve people. Now, Napoleon Bonaparte, the famous French general that tried to take over the world, he, on the other hand, was fairly high on the list of average. He averaged a 70%, which is quite high. The lowest of the people that was successful and did make a success of their life was a 71%. So what was the difference between 71 and 70%? Napoleon Bonaparte projected fear, and he got a 0 for practicing the golden rule. 1-0. That's it. See, when we use fear tactics instead of love tactics, it's a detriment to the success in our life. When we use hate, when we use lies, when we use fear to get what we want, it will backfire. It will bite us in the rear end, if you will. The more zeros in the success principles list that you have, the less successful you will be in life. I mean, what happened to Jesse James? I don't remember all the history, but I believe he was hanged for his crimes. Something like that. Napoleon Bonaparte lost the war he started. He started out strong, he did well, but then eventually he lost. All for 1-0. See, we got to get over this thing where we let fear rule us. And that's exactly what it does. Whether we're using fear to manipulate others or fear is manipulating us, either way, fear is in control. And when you are not in control of yourself and fear is in control of you, it's a sure recipe for disaster. So I want you really to pay attention to yesterday's video and this video this morning, because we have to get fear out of our lives. And I've talked about this already this year on how to help eliminate fear, and I think we'll go into more detail one of these days in techniques on how to overcome fear. But it's very important to your future success, to your relationship success, to your family success, that fear is eliminated as much as possible from the equation. Fear causes you to worry. Fear causes you to have stress. Fear causes you to lie, cheat, and steal. We have got to get over fear. It is the opposite of love. Hate is a product of fear. It is not the opposite of love. Fear is. Fear is the opposite of love. So let's replace our fear with love. It's not as easy as it sounds, I realize that. But we've got to get it in our minds. We've got to start changing our minds and let the love flow. So let's get fear out and love in. So, thank you again for taking the time to watch another More Factor video. I will see you for our final video this week, tomorrow. God bless. Take care. And don't let the snow ruin your back.